Maybe place one hand on your belly and one hand on your heart. Just notice the natural rhythm of your breath. If your attention starts to wander, just try to redirect your thoughts back to your breath. Let go of anything that may have happened prior to class. Just be present here on your mat, you, your breath. Focus in. On each inhale, feel your ribs and your lungs expand out to the side. And on each exhale, feel your belly hollowing out. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, stretch out through your toes. Grow nice and tall, stretching out through your fingers and your toes. Start to waken up your body with a nice morning stretch. Maybe wiggle your toes and your fingers. And slowly start to walk your feet to the right side of your mat. You can maybe cross one foot over the other, and then start to walk your hands to the right side of your mat. Should feel a nice stretch in your left side body. And come back to center. Uncross your legs if you cross one over in front of the other. Stretch out nice and long. And then slowly start to walk your feet over to the left side of your mat. Maybe crossing one foot over the other. And bring your hands over to the left side of your mat. Stretch out through your right side body. Stay here for 2 more cycles of breath. And come back to center. Hug both knees into your chest. Maybe rock your knees in one direction. Rotate your knees. Feel the rotation in your hips. And if you're doing that, go ahead and reverse to the other side. And come back to stillness in the middle. You can rotate your knees out to the side and bring them back in. Start to make circles with your hips and your knees. And come back to stillness in the middle. Hug your knees into your chest. Extend your feet towards the ceiling. You can start to point and flex your toes. Maybe circle your ankles and then reverse directions. Bend your left knee, cross your right ankle over your left knee. Come into reclined figure 4. You can reach behind your left hamstring or your shin. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And release, hug both knees into your chest. Extend both feet towards the ceiling. Bend your right knee. Bring your left ankle over your right knee. Come into reclined figure 4. Maybe reach behind and grab your right hamstring or shin. Go ahead and soften in. Feel the stretch in your right outer hip, left outer hip. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And release, hug both knees into your chest. Maybe rock side to side. And then slowly come up to a seated position. Extend your legs out wide. Ground down through your sit bones. Sit up nice and tall. Reach your arms overhead. And exhale, bow forward. Bring your hands down in front of you to reach the mat. You have the option to walk your hands out a little further if you'd like to go a little deeper. Or if this is too much, go ahead and walk your hands back closer to your body. Find your edge. And soften in. And slowly walk your hands back in towards your body. Sit up nice and tall. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Keep your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ear. Slowly start to rotate your shoulders and your belly button over towards your right toes. And fold forward, either bringing your hands to your shin, the mat, or the sole of your foot. Feel the stretch in your right hamstring. A slight stretch in your left side body. Soften in, breathe into it. If it becomes too much, just back off by rising back up. Stay here for 3 more cycles of breath. And slowly rise back up. Come back to center. Take a big inhale here and exhale. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Keep them up here, shoulders away from the ears. Rotate your shoulders and your belly button towards your left toes. And hinge forward, reaching for your shin, sole of your feet, your sole of your foot, or bring your hands back down to the mat. And soften in. Feel the stretch in your left hamstring and right side body. And slowly start to rise back up, back to center. Close your feet together, bring your legs together. Bring your right knee in towards your chest. Place your right foot over your left thigh. Hug your left arm around your right leg and bring your right arm behind you. Come into a twist. Gaze over your right shoulder. Inhale, grow tall through the crown of your head. And exhale, twist deeper. And come back to center. Place your right foot back down on the mat, extend it out long. Hug your left knee in towards your chest. Step your left foot over your right, bringing it to the outside edge of your right thigh. Hug your right arm over your left knee. Bring your left arm behind you. Gaze over your left shoulder. Twist. On each inhale, grow tall through your crown. And on each exhale, twist a little deeper in. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And come back to center. Bring your left foot back over your right. Extend it out long. Bring the soles of your feet together. Knees out wide. Come into butterfly. Keep it grounded down to your sit bones. Your feet can be either fist width, 2 fist width away from your body. Grab your ankles. Sit up nice and tall. And bow forward. Remember to keep your chin away from your chest. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. Slowly start to roll up. Sit up nice and tall. Bring your knees back down to the mat, hands down the mat, come into tabletop. Make sure your wrists are in line with your shoulders, knees are in line with your hips. Find your base of support here. Take a big inhale and slowly start to roll your hips to one side, making circles with your hips. And go the other way. And come back to stillness in the middle. Bring your knees out wide, sink your hips back, come into child's pose. Bring your forehead to the mat, stretch your fingers out long. Reach your right arm up towards the sky and thread it through. Come into a nice shoulder stretch on your right side. Top of your hand is facing down towards the mat. Gaze is over your right fingers. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. If you have shoulder issues, you can just stay in child's pose. There's an option. And bring your arm back out in front of you. Lift your left arm overhead, thread it through. Come into shoulder stretch on the left side. Top of your hand is facing down towards the mat. Gaze over your left fingers. Your hips are sinking down towards your heels. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And go ahead and come back into child's pose, bringing that left arm out in front of you. And come back up to tabletop. Bring your elbows down to the mat. Bring your palms together. Untuck your toes, or tuck your toes, and slowly start to lift your hips off the mat. Come into dolphin. You have the option to keep your palms together here. You can also bring your palms down towards the mat if that feels better for you. You also have the option to try to walk your feet in closer towards your body. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And lower your knees back down to the mat. Keep your palms together, knees out wide. Sink back into child's pose. Hands are in prayer position in front of you. You have the option to bring your fingertips down towards your neck, thumb towards your neck. You have the option to start to walk your elbows out towards the top of your mat. Stay with me for 3 more deep breaths. Again, if you have any shoulder issues, you can just stay in child's pose. Go ahead and release your hands. Come back into tabletop. Bring your elbows down to the mat, hands together, or you can also set up with your hands down, your palms down on the mat, whichever way you like to come into dolphin. Tuck your toes, lift your hips off the mat. Slowly start to walk your toes towards your body. Find your balance here. You have the option to stay here or try to lift your right leg high in the air. Stay here for 3 deep breaths. Find your balance and lower your right foot back down to the mat. Stay here. Find your balance and extend your left leg high in the air. Go ahead and lower your left foot down. Bring your knees back down to the mat. Push back to child's pose. Slowly come back to tabletop. We're going to come into dolphin and do the legs overhead one more time. So come down, bring your elbows down to the mat, set yourself up for dolphin, tuck your toes, lift your hips up and back, settle in here in dolphin, and find your balance, tighten through your core, extend your right leg high in the air. Stay here for 3 deep breaths. Feel strong through that left leg and lower your right foot down. Extend your left leg high in the air. Find your balance, tighten through your core. Ground down through your arms and lower your left foot down. Bring your knees down to the mat. Come back to tabletop. And slowly rise all the way up. Interlace your fingers behind you and just stretch out through your chest. Pull down through your hands. Squeeze your shoulder blades together and release. Bring your hands back down to the mat. Come into tabletop. Make sure your knees and hips are in line. Ground down through your hands. Extend your right foot behind you. You have the option to stay here or raise your left or your right foot off the mat, flexing your foot. You also have the option to extend your left arm out in front of you. You can stay here or reach around, grab your right foot with your left hand and push out through the top of your foot into your hand. Stretch out through your left shoulder, your right hamstring or your right thigh. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. It could get a little shaky, that's okay. Tighten through your core, find a focal point, and release. Extend your left foot behind you. You have the option to stay here or lift that left foot off the mat, flexing your foot. Option to stay here or extend your right arm out in front of you. Again, option to stay here or reach your right arm back, grab your left foot, extend out through the top of your foot into the palm of your hand, stretching out through your right shoulder and left thigh. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And release. Go ahead and bring your knees out wide, big toes together, sink your hips back, bring your forehead to the mat, come into child's pose. On your next inhale, come back to tabletop. Root down through your hands, tuck your toes, push back to down dog. If this is your first down dog of the day, go ahead and pedal your feet. Or you might find that your calves are a little more released after doing dolphin. You might find it easier to sink your heels down towards the mat. If not, that's okay. Go ahead and stretch out. Settle in here. Reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, bring your knee to your left elbow. And push back to down to three-legged dog. Exhale, bring your knee to nose. And push back to three-legged dog. Exhale, bring your right knee to right elbow. And push back for three-legged dog. Exhale, thread your leg through, come into low lunge. Place your left hand on the mat. Bring your right hand towards on your hip or overhead. Twist open to the right side. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And lower your hand back down to the mat. And slowly rise up for high lunge. Extend your arms overhead. Settle in here. Feel the stretch through your left hip flexor. Tighten through your core. Shoulders away from the ears. Grow nice and tall. And anchor your back foot down. Slowly lower into that front knee. Bring your arms out to a T. Come into warrior two. Settle in here. Feel nice and strong. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Feel the heat building in your legs, specifically that right quad. Flip your front palm. Reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Slowly start to straighten the front leg. Hinge at the hips. Bring your hand down to your shin or the mat. Come into triangle. Gaze up towards the ceiling or out in front of you. Shoulders are stacking. Feel nice and tall through that left arm. Feel the energy through your left fingers. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And bend into the right knee. Ground down through your feet. Using the strength of your legs, slowly start to rise up. Bring your arms back out to warrior two. Settle in here. And windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Step back to plank. Stay here. We're going to hold it for 3 breaths. Feel nice and strong through your core. And go ahead and slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Untuck your toes. Hands are under your shoulders. Ground down through your tops of your feet and your quads. And slowly start to lift your heart off the mat. Come into cobra. Stay here for 2 deep breaths. And lower back down to the mat. Tuck your toes. Slowly start to lift your body off the mat. Come back to down dog. Settle in here. Feel the stretch through your hamstrings and your calves. Maybe try to sink your heels a little lower down towards the mat. And extend your left leg high in the air. Exhale, bring your knee to your right elbow. Cross your body. And come back to 3-legged dog. Exhale, bring your left knee to your nose. Or close to. And come back to 3-legged dog. Exhale, bring your left knee to left elbow. And push back to 3-legged dog. Exhale, thread your left leg through, come into low lunge. Settle in here. Place your right hand on the mat. Bring your left hand to your hip or overhead. Twist open to the left side. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And bring your left hand back down to the mat. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead. Shoulders away from the ears. Feel the stretch in your right hip flexor. Sink in. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And anchor your right foot down. Sink into the front knee. Bring your arms out to a T. Come into warrior 2. Gazing over your front fingers. Settle in here. Flip your palm. Reverse your warrior. Stretching your right hand down your right leg. Feeling strong through your legs. And slowly rise back up to warrior 2. Straighten your front leg. Hinge at your hips. Bring your left hand down to your shin or the mat. Right arm overhead. Come into triangle. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. Bend into your left knee. Feel nice and strong through your legs. Use that strength and come up to warrior 2. Settle in here. And windmill your hands down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Step back to plank. We're gonna stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Tighten through your core. Tighten through your quads. Slow and with control, you can lower all the way down. You can come into cobra or up dog here. And push back the down dog. Inhale your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Come up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead. Anchor your left foot down, come into warrior two. Settle in here. Slowly start to straighten your front foot. Bring your right toes towards the long edge of your mat, bringing your feet parallel. Inhale, bring your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Hands on the mat. Inhale, halfway lift, spine long. Exhale, fold forward. Bring your left hand to the outside edge of your right foot or shin. Extend your left arm overhead. Gaze over to the right side. And come back to center. Bow forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Reach your right hand for the outside edge of your left foot or shin. Extend your left arm overhead. Remember to breathe here. Bring your left hand back down to the mat. Bring your right hand back down to the center. Bow forward. Start to heel toe your heels towards each other, closer together, toes out wide. You can slowly start to rise all the way up. Bring your hands to your hips, rise all the way up. With your heels in, toes out wide, slowly start to sink down, come into goddess pose. Your hands can be at heart center or out in goalpost arms. Totally optional. Try to sink your weight down in your heels, back. Don't bend forward. Try to keep your spine nice and tall. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Just start to feel the heat building in your quads. And go ahead and start to straighten your legs. Point your right toes towards the top of your mat. Come back into warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Step back to plank. Stay here for 3 deep breaths. You can go ahead and take a vinyasa here. We will all meet in down dog. Extend your left leg behind you. Thread it through for low lunge. Go ahead and set up for high lunge. Come into high lunge. Shoulders away from the ears, spine long. Spin your back heel down, come into warrior two. Start to straighten your front leg and slowly start to bring your feet parallel towards each other. Interlace your fingers behind you and slowly start to bow forward, hinging at the hips, keeping your back nice and straight. Lower all the way down, hands come overhead. Breathe here. Make sure that you don't have any tension in your neck. You should be able to easily shake your head yes and no. Your shoulder blades should be squeezing together, hands interlaced. And go ahead and slowly start to rise up, one vertebrae at a time. Release your hands. Bring your heels towards each other, toes out wide. We're going to sink back down into goddess pose one more time. Sink back through your hips. Ground down through your heels. Bring your hands out to goal posts, or you can bring your hands to heart center. Your choice. We're going to stay here for 5 deep breaths. So you're going to feel this in your quads. Try to stay with me. Keep your spine nice and tall. And start to straighten your legs. Spin your front toes towards the top of your mat and sink back in to warrior 2 on the left side. Settle in here. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot and step back to plank. Stay here for 3 deep breaths. And we're all going to lower all the way down to the mat. We're going to come into bow pose. You have the option to come into full bow, or you can do one side. So bring your, say for instance, your left foot in with your left hand and just reach down and grab your left hand or your left foot with your left hand. Or you have the option to grab both and extend out into bow, bringing your chest off the mat, pushing the tops of your feet into your hands. Go ahead and set up for what you would like to do. And stay here. If you're in full bow pose, push the tops of your feet into your hands. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. Try not to strain your neck. If you only have one foot, go ahead and switch now. Stay with me. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And go ahead and release everything down. Take a moment, let that go. And place your hands under your shoulders, tuck your toes, step back to down dog, or push back to down dog rather. Walk your feet towards your hands, come into forward fold. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, bring your right knee up towards your chest. And exhale, slowly start to hinge forward. Kick your right foot back towards the ceiling or the lower side, the smaller side of your mat. Come into warrior 3. Rounding down through that left foot. Hands can stay at heart center or extend out in front of you, or you also have the option to come into airplane arms. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Tighten your hips, hug in your hips, tighten your core, feel the shake. And slowly start to rise up. Place your right foot back down on the mat. Bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, bring your left knee into your chest. Ground down through your right foot. Slowly start to hinge forward and kick that left foot back towards the short edge of your mat. Hug in your hips, tighten through your core, find your stability. You have the option to keep your hands at heart center or extend them out in front of you or behind you. Try to lift that heel a little higher on the back foot. Find your stability and slowly rise up. Place that left foot back down on the mat. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, reach your right leg up and cross your right ankle over your left knee. Slowly sink down into standing figure 4. Find your strength and stability here. Find a point to focus on. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly rise back up. Place your right foot back down on the mat. Go ahead and shake that out if you need to. Bring your left knee in towards your chest. Cross your left ankle over your right knee and sink back. Come into standing figure 4 stretch. Find your focal point. Ground down through that right foot. A little trick for finding balance is lifting all your toes off the mat and lowering them down one toe at a time, starting at your pinky. And go ahead and slowly start to rise up. Place your left foot back down on the mat. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, hands to shin, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward and step back to down dog. Stay here. Take one more deep breath here in down dog. And lower your knees back down to the mat. Cross your shins and come back to a seated position. Heels on the mat, knees pointing towards the ceiling. Ground down through your sit bones. Slowly start to sink your shoulders back and lift your knees off the mat, shins off the mat, shins parallel to the mat. We're coming into boat. Hands can be on your hamstrings or straight out in front of you. We're here for 3 deep breaths. And release. Keep your feet on the mat, knees towards the ceiling, and slowly lower all the way down. Come into a supine position. Make sure your ankles are in line with your knees. You might have to walk your heels in towards your buttocks. Bring your hands down next to your hips. Ground down through the soles of your feet. Slowly start to lift your hips off the mat. Come into bridge. Tighten through your glutes. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly lower down one vertebrae at a time. Bring your hips down last. You can go ahead and windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And come back to stillness in the middle. We're going to set up for one more bridge. You have many options here. You can do what we just did. You can come into wheel if that's in your practice. We're going to settle in, ground down through the soles of our feet, and set up for your version of bridge here. Lift your hips off the mat. Maybe interlace your fingers behind you, walking your shoulder blades together. We're here for 5 deep breaths. And go ahead and lower down, all the way down to the mat. You can windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And come back to stillness in the middle. Hug both knees into your chest. Extend both legs towards the ceiling. You have the option to stay here and legs up the wall, or at this time you can take any inversion you would like. You can come into plow, come into shoulder stand, headstand, handstand, you name it, your practice. If you want to take a restorative approach and you have a block, you can go ahead and place it under your sacrum or put your legs against the wall. We're going to stay here for 5 more deep breaths. Go ahead and come down from whatever inversion you're in and hug your knees into your chest. Maybe rock side to side if that feels good. Bring your knees up, shins parallel to the mat, come into a 90-degree angle with your legs. Anchor your arms out to a T. Drop your knees over to the right side of your mat. Gaze over your left shoulder, come into a supine twist. Option to keep your arms out to a T or place your right hand on top of your left knee. Stay here for 3 deep breaths. And come back to center. Bring your arms back out to a T and sink your knees over to the left side of your mat. Gaze over your right shoulder. Option to place your left hand on the outside edge of your right knee. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And bring your knees back to center. Hug both knees into your chest. Maybe rock side to side if that feels good. You can also grab the outside edges of your feet and come into happy baby. At this time, if there's any asana you need to do to finish your practice today, I invite you to do so. Or you can just hang out here in happy baby or have your knees in your chest, hugging them in. When you're ready, hug your knees into your chest and find your way into a comfortable position for Shavasana. Maybe bring your feet out to the outside edges of your mat, flip your palms. Maybe get a blanket or a bolster if you have one, place it under your knees. You find your relaxation pose and settle in. Go ahead and close your eyes. Settle in. Feel the weight of the mat beneath your body. Scan your body. Just take notice if anything has shifted. Maybe you're feeling the energy moving through your body. Take notice of any sensations you feel. We often get so caught up in our busy lives. We tend to focus on all the negative energy around us. Just remember that everything you need to find peace is within yourself. Just need to tune in, focus on the breath. Even when there is a thunderstorm or rainstorm, and on a cloudy day, both those cloudy skies are blue skies. It's just that you need to remember that and come back to that knowing and peace within ourselves. You, your breath, slowly start to deepen your breath. You can start to wiggle your fingers and toes. Maybe stretch your arms overhead. Maybe hug your knees into your chest. You can rock side to side if that feels good. And make your way over to your right side. Take one more deep breath here. And slowly come up to a seated position.